Have you ever felt an invisible force shaping the way you see others, the way you love, the way you react without knowing why? What if I told you there are two ancient forces within your psyche that influence everything, your relationships, your dreams, even the path of your soul? Forces you've never truly seen, but that have seen you from the moment you were born. Carl Jung called them anima and animus. And once you understand them, nothing about your inner world will ever look the same again. Anima and animus are not just psychological theories. They are archetypal energies, deep blueprints of the soul. The anima is the feminine aspect living inside the male unconscious. The animus is the masculine counterpart within the female psyche. But this isn't about gender. It's about polarity, about the invisible dance between opposites that governs human experience. To deny them is to deny half of yourself, and most people do, unknowingly, daily. They feel the pull, the projection, the chaos, but they never name it. Jung did. In the male psyche, the anima appears in many faces. She can be the lover, the muse, the mother, or the destroyer. She enters his dreams as a mysterious woman, powerful and alluring, sometimes fragile, sometimes terrifying. She is the voice behind creative inspiration, but also emotional collapse. She is the soul's mirror and the heart's trap. For women, the animus wears many masks. He is the wise man, the hero, the critic, the tyrant. He appears as the voice of reason or the shadow of control. He inspires strength, but can also lock the heart in cold, stubborn silence. These inner figures are not fantasies. They are alive in the background of every choice you make. From the moment you first felt attraction, from your earliest heartbreaks, from your dreams about unknown lovers, anima and animus have been speaking. Their language is symbolic. They rise through emotion, image, and projection. That's where the real drama begins. You don't fall in love with a person, you fall in love with your anima or animus projected onto a person. You believe it's destiny, but it's an echo. You think you've met the one, but you've met a reflection of your soul's own hunger for integration. Jung believed that the integration of these forces is essential to becoming whole. Without confronting the anima or animus, you remain half, a divided self. This inner split creates confusion in relationships. You chase what you lack. You reject what you fear. You're drawn to the opposite, not because it completes you, but because it reveals what is missing in you. The anima for a man can make him overly emotional, unstable, or blindly romantic if she's unconscious. The animus for a woman can manifest as inner rigidity, endless judgment, or cold independence if unexamined. But when these archetypes are made conscious, they become bridges. They become guides to transformation. The anima leads a man to his soul. She teaches him to feel, to create, to listen to his inner world. The animus leads a woman to her mind's power. He strengthens her ability to speak, act, and stand in her truth. Both are needed, in everyone, because the ultimate goal of the psyche is not balance, but union. And that union is alchemical, transformational. The sacred marriage of opposites inside the self. This is not a new idea. Cultures for thousands of years have spoken in symbols of this same truth. In Taoism, it's yin and yang. In alchemy, it's Sol and Luna. In mythology, it's the hero and the goddess, the king and the sorceress. Jung simply gave language to what humanity has always known but rarely understood. These forces live within you. When denied, they take over. When honored, they awaken. Look at your relationships. How many times have you fallen for someone who turned out to be the opposite of what you imagined? How often have you felt drawn to people who mirrored a deep longing you couldn't explain? That's not accident. That's projection. The anima or animus using the face of another to call you inward, to show you what you've disowned. The image you fall in love with is never fully real, but the feeling it evokes, that's yours. That's the gold buried in shadow. This is why spiritual awakening often begins with heartbreak, with longing, with obsession. These emotions are the anima and animus stirring. When someone touches those inner archetypes, they awaken not just love, but chaos. They break the spell of the persona. The mask you wear for the world begins to crack. You feel exposed, vulnerable, and yet more alive than ever. Why? Because something in you is trying to become whole. The path to integration begins with awareness. You must begin to recognize the patterns, the recurring dreams, the emotional triggers, the idealized fantasies. Who or what are you projecting your inner opposite onto? What images dominate your imagination? What voices echo in your mind? The anima and animus don't speak in logic. They speak in symbols, in mood, in art, in dream. And they don't go away until you face them. To work with the anima or animus is not about suppressing your emotions or overriding your instincts. It's about honoring the depth behind them. Asking, what part of me is she awakening? What truth is he protecting? What wound are they showing me that I haven't healed? Jung believed that the true task of adulthood is individuation, the process of becoming your authentic self by integrating the unconscious. Anima and animus are the gatekeepers of that process. Without them, you are blind to half your inner world. Think of the anima as the key to the soul's mystery. She is not only the emotional or intuitive part of a man, but also the guide to his creativity, his inner richness. When ignored, she becomes a seductress, leading him into illusion. But when embraced, she becomes Sophia, the wisdom of the inner feminine. Think of the animus as the guardian of clarity. He is not just logic or ambition, but the protector of the feminine soul. When unconscious, he becomes the inner critic or tyrant. But when awakened, he becomes logos, the divine word, the guiding force of purpose. No matter your gender, both archetypes exist within you. In a man, the anima is more hidden. In a woman, the animus often acts from the shadows. But both influence everything. Your fears, your desires, your intuition, your logic. To deny them is to walk through life with one eye closed. When you meet someone who ignites something profound in you, pause. Don't just ask, do I love them? Ask instead, what part of me have they activated? That's the beginning of consciousness. That's the beginning of reclaiming projection and turning it into integration. Love becomes less about merging with another and more about recognizing the parts of yourself seeking return. These inner figures are not problems to solve, they are invitations to grow. They show you where you're wounded, yes, but also where your genius lies. Your power, your magic. They are not meant to be controlled. They're meant to be danced with, not feared, but listened to. Closely. The moment you begin to listen, really listen, something shifts. You start to recognize your own myth, your own inner journey. Your relationships become mirrors, not prisons. Your triggers become maps, and your longing becomes a compass. You stop chasing wholeness outside and start finding it within. The deeper you go into this work, the stranger it becomes. You begin to see how much of your life has been shaped by unconscious forces, how many choices you made not freely, but as a response to an inner hunger you didn't yet understand. You see how often you've searched for someone to complete you, not realizing you were projecting a sacred image onto an ordinary person. And you see how painful it is to wake up from that illusion, yet how freeing, because when the projection fades, something new is possible. Real love. Not idealization, not fantasy. Real love that sees the other for who they are, not as a vessel for your anima or animus, but as a fellow traveler, as someone with their own inner universe. Integration doesn't kill romance, it purifies it. It makes it richer, deeper, grounded in reality, but still touched by myth. This is why shadow work matters. Not just to heal trauma or stop repeating patterns, but to retrieve your soul. The anima and animus hold the keys to that retrieval. They guard the gates to your deepest power and your greatest wounds. When you avoid them, they act out through others. When you face them, they reveal treasure. In dreams, the anima may appear as a woman you've never met, mysterious, glowing, maybe unreachable. She may guide you through dark places or leave you lost and desperate. The animus might show up as a powerful male figure, sometimes helpful, sometimes cruel. These figures aren't just dream characters, they're messages. They're aspects of your psyche asking to be known, to be accepted, to be brought home. You may also encounter these energies in your creative process. Writers often speak of a muse, an invisible feminine presence that brings ideas, beauty, form. This is the anima in motion. Artists feel it as inspiration, as fire, as the ache of longing to create. The animus, by contrast, may show up as structure, discipline, vision, and the inner voice that pushes action. The masculine and feminine archetypes are not passive, they want expression. And if you don't listen, they'll find other ways to come through. Often through obsession, anxiety, or crisis, there is something else you should know. The anima and animus evolve. They are not static images. Jung described the anima as progressing through 4 stages, from Eve, the biological woman, to Helen, the romantic, to Mary, the spiritual figure, and finally to Sophia, wisdom itself. The animus too grows from brute force to action to the word, and then to deeper meaning. As you grow, so do they. And the more you work with them, the more refined they become, less reactive, more revelatory. Less personal, more universal. The final stage is when these figures no longer dominate you. They become integrated into your being. The anima becomes not just a source of emotion, but of intuition and soul vision. The animus becomes not just opinionated thoughts, but clarity, courage, and inner direction. You stop projecting them outward and start living with them inwardly. They become sacred companions rather than chaotic disruptors. That is the true alchemy Jung spoke of, the transformation of unconscious forces into conscious allies. But be warned, this is not easy work. To confront the anima or animus often means confronting deep emotional pain, fear of abandonment, shame, rejection, or vulnerability. It means seeing how you've misunderstood love. It means grieving illusions. And yet, in that grief, something magnificent begins to grow. Your true self begins to take shape, not the self your ego crafted to survive, but the self your soul came here to embody. This journey cannot be rushed. It unfolds in cycles. Sometimes you feel empowered, sometimes lost, sometimes clear, sometimes full of fog. But each time you return to the symbols, to the dreams, to the inner dialogue, you go deeper. And each layer brings more light, more wholeness, more capacity to love without needing to possess, to connect without disappearing, to give without losing yourself. Integration of anima and animus is the foundation of spiritual maturity. It allows you to stop searching for your missing half in others. It opens the door to sacred union within, and when that happens, something incredible follows. Your relationship with the outer world shifts. You attract different people. You feel less fragmented, less dependent, more alive, more sovereign. Your energy changes, and so does your reality. The truth is, we are not meant to stay divided. We are not meant to live in exile from our own inner forces. The feminine in you longs to be seen. The masculine in you longs to be trusted. Together, they form the full compass of your soul, the depth and the direction, the heart and the voice, the vision and the vessel. The integration of these polarities is not just psychological, it is mystical. It is the bridge between your human nature and your divine potential. And the world needs more people who have done this inner work. Because when you integrate the opposites within yourself, you stop projecting war outside. You stop demanding others play the roles you haven't made peace with inside. You start relating from presence, not programming. From wholeness, not hunger. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But to become that, you must meet all of yourself, including the parts that confuse you, the parts that seduce you, the parts that scare you. The anima and animus are mirrors, but also mentors. Their lessons are encoded in your deepest feelings, your strangest dreams, your most powerful attractions. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by longing, or inexplicably drawn to someone, or haunted by a dream that makes no sense, ask yourself, what are these forces trying to show me? What is being activated in me that I've never fully welcomed? What side of my soul is reaching out for union? That's where the real work begins. Not outside, but within. Now tell me, have you ever felt the presence of an inner masculine or feminine force guiding you, testing you, or even haunting you? Have you seen them in dreams or felt them in moments of deep connection or crisis? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what your inner world has been trying to say.